Okay, colleagues, I want to show you something that just kind of is giving me a lot of gratitude, appreciation today as I think about teaching and the work that you and I do. So, back on the very first day of school, I asked students to answer this question in a short answer format. So, 2 to 3 sentences. Tell me about a great teacher you've had. What was it about them or their teaching that made them so great? And I started asking this question a few years ago because I was curious about teacher credibility and where does teacher credibility come from? So I really wanted to see from the students' words what do they say, and because I wanted to test if my ideas there, the things I've drawn from the research are true, and they're pretty much true. Like if you signal care, competence, and passion, that's what I call CCP: care, competence, and passion. Then yeah, it's typically students will think that you're a good teacher. But here's what blew me away this year. So as the students turn these in, I have about 133 kids this year. This is all the different teachers that were mentioned. So each one of those piles is a different teacher's name that was mentioned. And some teachers were mentioned by only one student, some were mentioned by, a dozen. But I'm just like, this is how many different people in my students' past have made an impact on them. So one thing that it really makes me grateful for is the fact that I don't need to be the best teacher that any of my students have ever had. That's not necessary because they've all had these teachers that have impacted them. So what does that mean? That means I can give myself permission to have a life. I can give myself a permission to do my best work that I'm capable of today, try to be ready for tomorrow before I leave, but then I can go home and I can rest. I don't need to do all the things and be the very best teacher. I can actually settle for being a good teacher, a teacher who's getting better every year, and not feel bad about that. Second, it makes me grateful because there's just so many great people that do this job. And, I'm super lucky that I get to go and work with schools all around the country and even around the world. I've been to schools, to all different types of schools. So I get to really put that whole idea to the test. Are there really great teachers everywhere? And I can tell you with total confidence, yes. There's great teachers everywhere. You can just tell from what they say, what they ask, their demeanor. They're in it to win it. They want to be good, and they are on that path to getting better and better every year. So that's a really good feeling because sometimes you can just think, if you have a negative interaction with a colleague, like, oh man, teachers, we're the worst. But it's just important to zoom out and realize that most people in this work, they're trying to do a good job. And in fact, according to my students, they're doing a good job. And the third and final reason why this exercise, sorting out those papers, made me so grateful is that I would be willing to bet that there's at least a name in there that has no idea that that student felt that they were a great teacher, that student a year later, 2 years, 3 years. There's ninth grade students in that stack of papers that are talking about their fourth grade teacher. And I bet that they just don't know. And you might think, well, Dave, that's terrible. That's terrible. Why is that good news? It's good news, colleague, because I think when you can get to a place in your teaching practice where you realize that your impact far exceeds what you're aware of or what you could ever be aware of, that just enables you to come in each day, give your best, and then feel good at the end of the day, even if you don't see remarkable growth or there's no fireworks and unicorns in the classroom on that particular day. We can have confidence that if we're doing the right basic kinds of work day after day, that does produce an effect. And if you're like, yeah, but Dave, what are those right kinds of work? Well, that's actually what I've dedicated my teacher-writer career to figuring out. And it's a selfish pursuit. I want to figure out what are those basic things that I can just do again and again and get better and better at every year so that they become easier and easier and more habitual for me that are going to yield the most impact over time. So that really is what my books, The Will to Learn, and These 6 Things are all about. They're about those basic teacher moves that are super efficient in terms of the effort that I have to put in and the output that I can expect is happening, whether I'm ever made aware of it or not. And yes, I know some of you are wondering, Dave, are you ever going to share these with those teachers that they wrote about? Yes. I'm very excited to be dropping a package of these off to the teachers in my district soon.